This show furnished by Judd Dunning.
You're here on AM 790 KABC on Unapologetic, the Judd Dunning Hour, every Monday night from 7 to 8 and brought to you by DWGCapitalPartners.com. Don't know where to turn as you feel the instability of the Biden burn down on the American economy? DWG can help. If you are seeking a safe, triple net, industrial, high-yielding investment where you let DWG do all the heavy lifting and bring home those high-yielding returns and superior institutional-grade sophisticated tax incentives, reach out and take control of your portfolio today at DWGCapitalPartners.com.
You can't cancel America. You can't cancel truth. It's time to be unapologetic.
American news is more exciting to me than making love.
No safety net, no ceiling. You own it, you earn it. Free market capitalism rocks. My country.
It just makes you happy.
The American dream is dead.
120 days. Give me a break. My son did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Southern California, America, the world. Welcome to Unapologetic, the Judd Dunning Hour on KABC with conservative host and author Judd Dunning.
When you hear the word summer vacation, are you thinking of door number one, kicking it in Camp David and maybe circling back later when inflation is gone, the southern border isn't hitting 21-year peak illegal immigration, or you're officially done losing a $2 trillion war? Or door number two, how do I tell my spouse and kids that after Disney World, we're staying in Florida until Larry Elder is in office? Well, fear not, Southern California, because there's a conservative cure for that conundrum, and it's behind door number two, and you're in the right spot, baby. Welcome back to Unapologetic, the Judd Dunning Hour, here with you every Monday night, 7 to 8 p.m. on KABC, AM 790, featuring our serious, intelligent, conservative, unapologetic guests, as well as a few laughs to ease your Monday blues during your primetime drive time here in Southern California and across the nation. Brought to you this week by Risk Advisory Partners, LLC.com and DWGCapitalPartners.com. I'm Judd Dunning, author of the book, 13 and a Half Reasons Why Not to Be a Liberal and How to Enlighten Others, Newsmax columnist, contributor, and your host, or as my doctor likes to call me, guy who asks too many questions about the vaccine. It's August 15th, and the time is 7:05, and you're a proud member of the CCCP, meaning California Conservative Capitalist Car Posse, and you're cruising home after cramming in yet another free market Monday. Can I say American exceptionalism? Did you make America great today, proud patriot? You don't have to tell me, because if you hadn't, you wouldn't be here right now. So let's jump in to our weekly unapologetic first things and first thoughts. Afghanistan is a hot mess. Welcome to Biden's Vietnam 2.0 America. Ask yourself, why does America lead the world as its reluctant interventionist? It's because we fight for freedom. Yes, as Americans, unlike others, we don't pillage resources, take oil or money on our way out of our just wars. We always try to leave behind democracy, or at least a recognizable democratic structure where we exit so that they may ideally move away from the repression of women, stoning of homosexuals, the torturing of political opponents, the dominance of thieving elites class, and all things that spring like life eternal from the crushing literalism of theocracies, autocracies, monarchies, despotic, communistic, and socialistic dictatorships, and all forms of tyranny. That's who America is, lest you forget. And ask yourself, if the United States is not the world's policeman, who or what will be? Russia? China? Iran? The United Nations? There is no other U.S., us. And, we being the best and most appropriate, we must hold ourselves to a higher standard. Sorry, folks. This is Unapologetic, not the happy fairy dust show. We shouldn't bail on human beings just because Democrats would rather be home, repressing their own people and spending trillions on pork rather than protecting basic human freedom. And contrary to Oliver Stone, Howard Zinn, and all the 1619 nut jobs et al., we are not nation builders or Monroe Doctrine throwback freaks. but we're good people. And that's what tonight's opening is all about. What I'm about to say will not be popular to many, but I'm right. Let's unwind this chaos, shall we? Just weeks ago, President Biden assured Reagan, thank you, I just had a flashback, assured Americans the likelihood that there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely, he said. In April, he said, "We will not conduct a hasty rush to the exit. We'll do it in a responsible, deliberately, and safely." Not this weekend, as we all know now what happened. The Taliban entered the Afghanistan capital, Kabul, from all sides in what the New York Times called a free fall, as they seized nearly all of what we secured over the last 20 years in a single week. Despite the hundreds of billions of dollars spent by the U.S. and NATO over 2 decades to build up Afghan security forces, soon after, our beloved Old Glory was torn down as Biden instructed our $700 million embassy to be abandoned and its staff to destroy all its American flags so as not to be misused in propaganda efforts later and to brace for global embarrassment. Too late, Joe Biden. Meanwhile, CNN airs videos of choppers over Kabul, ferrying U.S. diplomats to the airport as the world watches as we cut and run from abandoning our embassy. Meanwhile, the former sin-averting and luxury-denying Taliban sit amongst extreme wealth in the Kabul presidential palace. Also a day late and a dollar short. Our seemingly amazed Joint Chief Staff Chairman finally pulled his political eyes off the white American supremacists as what he called the primary threat to American security and finally called the Taliban what they are by raising the terrorist threat level back in Afghanistan. And he should. As the Taliban just opened prison doors, letting out a full new deck of cards of Taliban and al-Qaeda, over 18 generals helped put away these people who are now back on the streets. Terrorism is back, Jack. Coming to a mall or a building near you if we don't pay attention to watch what just happened. We just spent $2 trillion to stabilize that region. It's a serious deal. L.A., SoCal, America, the world, are you used to this yet in the Biden years? Are you amenable to American weakness and a lack of deeper civility? What do we stand for? And what does civil society do? Not just what's right for us. When John F. Kennedy said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," he challenged every American to contribute in some way to the public good. But he wasn't just talking about Americans. We Americans at our highest and best actually care about not only ourselves, but the world. And it's not some shadow of manifest destiny. I'm speaking of LA. What I would call here is meritocratic destiny. That we Americans ended up so blessed that the blessing comes with a sense of responsibility. If you really want to dumb it down to the personal level, it's a 4-letter word in 2021, character. This is about our character as a nation. And I assure everybody, especially after the BLM riots and the election issues, that everyone in the world is watching every move America makes. We're on trial. So from behind our comfortable couch, truck, or desk, do we support our government to abandon the good free people in our country, in a country, as we exit because it's easy and popular? Or do we have character? Especially when our U.S. veterans who sacrificed in Afghanistan over the past 20 years lost 2,300 lives and 20,000 were wounded in action protecting these people long after the score was leveled for 9/11. After spending $2.26 trillion on war trying to rebuild the Afghan government and train the military as fleeing thugs right now and hooligans who stone gaze and clitorally neuter women for dominant compliance take back a country we invaded. So do we care? A retaliatory strike after 9/11 and leaving may have been ideal and the best path, but we didn't do that. So we have to deal with the consequences, and we stayed. And with staying becomes a responsibility and how we leave, and that's character. Do we allow a return to the dark days as the Taliban reimposes repressive laws on women in newly captured areas of Afghanistan where women can no longer travel without a man with them? And where is the progressive pussycat power code pink on that? Do they really care? After today's speech, I don't think Biden does. And I don't think leftists give a damn about anybody but themselves in power. They only care about power and politics, not people. Nobody disagrees that Afghanistan is a backwards third world suckhole. It's a matter of fact. Trying to force peace was popular after Vietnam as well. 30 million died in Southeast Asia after our aggressive politicized pullout of the baby boomers when they turned on honoring their commitments. We must always leave civilly. Character. Just as there was a victory day in Vietnam, properly named V-Day, there was a day like this in Kabul. But we often forget is when Vietnam fell, it fell on the exit years later when Democrats wanted to believe in politicizing a peaceful exit by negotiating our pledge, one gun for one gun or one tank for one tank to all the enemies of Vietnam, and we backed out on that promise. Character. Today, Biden said, I will not repeat the mistakes we made in the past, but he is. Look it up. It was Biden who already torpedoed rebuilding Vietnam as a senator and is now bailing on Afghanistan as a president. You just did, Joe. You just did. But to choose goodness, acting as if we think God would want us to in our higher natures, we Americans, we can't avoid the unknown. We can't de-risk America. Unknowns like not knowing when a war should properly end. And we have to put people first and politics second. As hard as it is the unknown, America, where courage and sacrifice live. And it's in the unknown where both freedom and character are made. Government abhors a vacuum and wants to fill it and control your individual positive and negative rights. Trump got it. Listen, observe, and head in the direction of withdrawal unless they came back to power and then change course. And because he cares for people first. No one is saying don't eventually leave. But let's leave when some civil stability is back in place, America. We know abandoning people we conquered is bad, and we're better than that. That's character. Biden showed us today he has none. Is there a screwed up cabal between D.C. and the military-industrial complex that both parties, left and right, are partaking in? Yes. But is this about today? Yes. Should we act like Americans and thrive in the unknown as we put protecting others first because that is our higher nature? Yes. Because we are good. We are the good guys. But sadly, before that happens, we're just going to have to bring Trump back. Stay unapologetic. Let's get to our first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the great, the persistent Scott Pressler with us tonight. We're going to have him for this block, the next block, and into the third. Scott, thanks for coming.
Pleasure to be here.
So good to have you, my friend. Listen, you have been a force. You're a genius. We're going to be quick, and then we're going to go to the next block. We're going to be the whole time in the next one. And, you just blew everybody on Clubhouse away because you understood 2022. You understood the map. You understood America. What caused this great change in you?
I never deviated. I've always been strategic. I've always been pragmatic. Look, I'm here to work. I'm here to win. I'm not into games. I'm not into low blows. I'm not into infighting. I'm here for one reason and one reason alone, and that's to defeat the Democrats and to fight for liberty and freedom. And that means that in 2022, we have an opportunity to win governorships like in New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, re-electing Governor DeSantis, winning the governorship in Georgia and in Arizona. And look, we have to maintain control of Congress. I don't want the Democrats to federalize their elections. I don't want the Democrats to pass H.R. 4, which is a gun-grabbing bill. I don't want the Democrats to give a pathway to citizenship to 11 million illegal immigrants when we can't even take care of our own black, white, and brown American citizens here in our own country. I don't want to nation build the rest of the world while we have a crumbling infrastructure here in America. I'm here to elect constitutional conservatives that are going to put America first and take care of our people. That's why I'm here.
So, Scott, you are a bright mind. You're holding all this information. What I want to do when we come back from the break is I want you to tell us how the average citizen unapologetically can take part in taking our nation back. Excited to have great Scott Presler here. You're here at Unapologetic, the Judd Dunning Hour, KABC, AM 790. We'll be right back. We are back, SoCal, America, the world, and we're here. If you're just coming here, you're on our show, AM 790, KABC, Unapologetic, the Judd Dunning Hour, featuring my great guest, Scott Presler, the persistence. And Scott, continuing on, so, you are jumping in, being critical of Biden today. You're on top of every issue. And the reason I brought you in was on Clubhouse, there was a phenomenon. This room blew up. I was like, what's going on here? And I was like, this guy is so intelligent. He's so bright. So let's talk about the bottom line. Unapologetically, what is the most important thing that we can do as Californians to win back the country in 2022 and 2024? Where do we stump? Where do we vote? Where do we give our money? You have a genie's bottle, and you've got all of us here, 18 million of us in LA, saying, what does Scott want us to do? Tell us what to do.
Well, I mean, I'm speaking nationwide, so everybody listening, I don't care what state you're in, including California, what you can do is you can go to openstates.org. Again, that's openstates.org. Unless you communicate to your legislator, to your representatives in the state Senate and state House, they are not going to represent you unless you consistently and constantly tell them what you want them to do. So I want you to both call and email them, which you can find this information at openstates.org, and you say, what are you doing to sponsor or co-sponsor election integrity legislation? And if the staff are on the phone or the legislator writes you back and says, what do you mean by election integrity legislation? Then that means things like voter ID laws in the state of California. That means things like punctually removing people from the voter rolls when they unfortunately pass away.
Amen.
Or move to another county or state. That means paper ballots so we can have a paper trail. And it also means banning electronic voting. Those are actions that you can take literally Monday through Friday to make sure that we are passing things like election integrity reform, that we are funding our police, that we are protecting women's sports. But you need to communicate as a concerned citizen to your legislators, and you need to do it every single day until they act on your behalf. And if they do not act on your behalf, then we need to have people fill out the paperwork, put their name on the ballot, and primary, repeal, and replace these representatives with somebody who will get the job done. And we have an opportunity to do that. I encourage every single one of you. I want you today to go online, you type into the internet, and type in California, check my voter status. If you want to be an empowered American citizen, then there is no better thing that you can do than vote in the California recall special election on September 14th. You have the power. I'm asking you, A, to vote yes to recalling Governor Gavin Newsom. And then number two, I'm going to leave the choice up to you. Pick the candidate that you would like to see, who you believe in, that would do the best job at protecting our liberties in the state of California, that will replace Governor Gavin Newsom, and vote on September 14th.
Amen. Amen. You know, we have been doing this the whole summer long on Unapologetic. We're dealing with these issues, these what I call rational, not radical issues, you know, that people want to quickly call you a seditionist, treasonous racist for, which is rational thought. There is a war on rational thought. It is based on gaslighting and flipping information, false facts, alternative facts, and repression of free speech. So, Scott, how refreshing that you've got all these people following you. So let's predict. Let's use our crystal ball. Are we going to have contaminated elections in California in the groundwork that you've been doing and you've been seeing? Have we rectified these issues, or are they really at risk? There are reports that even our state went much more red than blue in the last election. Scott, your thoughts?
Look, I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. The fact of the matter is there are going to be shenanigans in our elections. We know that for a fact. And I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm actually saying that to try to encourage you to, A, register to vote, to B, overwhelm the polls, and C, if you care about safe and secure elections, then please, I'm literally begging you, I'm pleading with you, take off work on Election Day and become an Election Day worker. I hate to say it, but guys, you need a little bit of tough love with Scott. This is Real Talk with Scott right now. The Democrats, they outwork us. Yes, there are shenanigans, but the fact of the matter is Stacey Abrams and the Democrats outwork us because they put in the work of knocking in the doors. They put in the work of registering voters. They put in the work of becoming Election Day workers. And so please, I encourage every single one of you, because here's how it's supposed to work, Judd. You're supposed to have 50-50 in our polls, meaning there's supposed to be equal a number of Democrats and Republicans making sure that we have safe and secure elections. But if only 20% of Republicans actually sign up as volunteers to become Election Day workers, who fills the remaining 30% that should be filled by Republicans? You guessed it, Democrats. So we're seeing that the majority of people who are counting our ballots are Democrats, and it's because Republicans have historically not shown up. So if you want to make a difference, if you want to be empowered, if you want to make sure that we have a safe and secure election on September 14th, then I want you to type into the internet, California Election Day worker, California poll watching, and you sign up today so you can make sure that you can take the class and become an official Election Day worker and make sure that we have eyes and ears inside of our polling locations. That's what you can do.
That is great. You know, that's one of the few things I've never done. I'll stump, I'll door knock, I'll do everything I can. I'll get out there, we'll do our rallies. But that is a great get into the system so they can't contaminate the system. You know, California's interesting because we have a huge amount of unidentified voters, right? And that's because there's a certain shame to coming out and being a Republican in California. And for me, it's over, man. I'm in the financial districts. I'm no longer in Hollywood. And I love freedom. I love God. I love my guns, my ARs, my friends, you know. And we live in a culture where people will be worried about doing that. But the stakes are too high. Our state is specifically we're under war. Our homeless is horrible. The propositions that have allowed us not to put anyone in jail under $950 for theft or drugs is tearing down our state. We've got a marijuana war happening in northern Los Angeles County. We got 300%, Scott, 300% increase in fentanyl with 14 opiate deaths a day. I mean, our city is now 38% increased in crime and up to 50% in certain crime areas. So why is California not running to the polls? Why are Republicans thinking that it's not possible? And I think we have to remind them, California went red in the 80s and Texas went blue in the 80s. Anything is possible. And you say?
Look at what happened in 2020. We flipped several congressional districts from blue to red. We elected Michelle Steele. We elected Young Kim, right? So there is the possibility for Republicans to win, but you guys have to change that mentality. And I mean, I hate to say it, but look at all the people that have already fled the state. And you know what? I can't blame them. I cannot blame them for leaving California. And people need to understand, look at how California, Illinois, New York, Democrat, all losing congressional districts. Where are they fleeing to? Texas, Republican. North Carolina, Republican. Florida, Republican. The fact of the matter is conservative policies work. Now, I'm speaking to you from New York right now. I'm on Long Island. And I'm telling the people here in New York, a state very similar to yours in terms of policy and legislative structure in terms of party. And I'm asking people, stay in New York. Stay in California. Don't you concede. Don't you give up. If you believe in freedom and liberty and justice, then you fight. And when I say fight, I do mean that peacefully, and I do mean that democratically, because otherwise CNN will call me an insurrectionist. You know how they roll. But the fact of the matter is, don't you give up on your family, on your house, on your property, on your state. I want you to fight back peacefully, and let's shock the nation. Let's shock the world when we not only recall Governor Gavin Newsom, replacing him with a conservative
Larry
Republican
Elder
governor, but in 2022, when we take back the House, when we add Republican seats to our Senate majority, and when we continue to make Joe Biden the lame duck president that he is.
Amen. Thank you so much, Scott. We're going to bring Scott right back after our Conservative Comedy Corner coming up at the top of the next segment. Hang on, Scott. We'll be right back with you. You're at KABC, AM 790, Judd Dunning, the Unapologetic Hour.
of biting your tongue while being gaslit with fake news and fictitious alternative facts as conservatives and Republicans? Need an entertaining, powerful, and informative handbook on every conservative issue? What to know and how to win all those arguments with your liberal frenemies? Or are you already a diehard conservative who loves America and simply wants to sharpen your toolbox of history, facts, and philosophy for the battle ahead until 2024? Newsmax contributor, columnist, and KABC AM 790 host Judd Dunning has the new book for you. It's 13 and a half reasons why not to be a liberal and how to enlighten others. A timeless yet also hot topic guide on the main tenets and issues of American conservatism today and how to argue them. Buy the new Amazon bestseller, 13 and a half reasons why not to be a liberal, and join our unapologetic army at newsmax.com/13. Buy your copy today. That's newsmax.com/13 or directly through Amazon. As Dinesh D'Souza said in his foreword, anyone can lob verbal hand grenades, but Judd genuinely seeks to advance conservative principles through reasoned dialogue. Or as Roger Stone said, Judd Dunning provides a crucial perspective for those tired of arguing with mindless liberals who believe in all the disinformation served up by the fake news media. A must-read for those determined to defeat the unhinged left. Get your copy today. That's newsmax.com/13.
Welcome back, Southern California, here on AM 790 KABC, Unapologetic, the Judd Dunning Hour, brought to you by DWG Capital Partners and Risk Advisory Partners, LLC.com. We'll be right back with Scott Pressler in a minute. Okay, LA, Rule 62, never take yourself too seriously, especially as there are now only 1,175 days until the Mayorkas, Fauci, Obama, Harris, Pelosi, Xi Jinping, Biden presidency by committee is out of office. But who's counting except us here weekly? So it's time again for the comedic relief moment of our show.
That's right, Southern California. It's time for the Conservative Comedians Counter Cancel Culture Corner.
All right, and here we are. Good evening. I'm Judd Dunning. Welcome to Unapologetic, our 3-minute combustible news you can use, mostly to lose your LGBTQ rights in Kabul. Afghanistans are fleeing the Taliban and what critics are calling the biggest Biden bungle. I bet everyone listening to the show a vial of Alzheimer's medication that Biden thinks the Taliban are trying to help secure our border from the Olympics. Thanks, Biden. You did a great job again. Thousands died for nothing. After $2 trillion, we were conquered by the Taliban on Honda motorbikes supplied from China. The good news is that no one has to wear a COVID mask because everyone's already hiding their faces under black scarves to rape, kill, and pillage in the name of Allah more effectively. As a result of this pullout, countless have died in vain fighting for freedom in Afghanistan. And Biden's probably thinking, yeah, but who's going to tell those guys anyway? But I sure love using their votes. A Tennessee school board member said he's stepping down after parents aggressively opposed mask requirements during a hyperheated, locally televised school board meeting. But what I didn't see after the cameras turned off, what we didn't see was how the school board member had to flee the mob of angry parents to hurry home to get their kids ready for private school. When it comes to my body, my choice, the leftist school board loves the child but just seems to hate the fetus. Biden's U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, Ali Mayorkas, got caught saying that the border crisis was unsustainable and we're going to lose in a recently leaked hot mic moment. Mayorkas' name should be changed to Maytag because he's always caught in a spin cycle. It all makes sense now. Biden is going to ban interstate travel for U.S. citizens, but leave the border wide open for diverse COVID strains. In fairness to Biden, it's hard to understand death when you're a zombie. On the most pressing news of the day, Britney Spears' father, Jamie Spears, has finally agreed to step down from his conservatorship. Alas, there comes a time when the parent needs to let their 39-year-old multimillionaire daughter go. I have to shake my head when there's an international movement just to give one person's autonomy back. Fortunately, now we can all get on with our own lives. As part of Biden's Build Back Better agenda, our part-time president gave a speech this week about his plan to reduce the high cost of prescription drugs. Sadly for Joe, when the Bidens try to save money on the drugs, it doesn't apply to their own son's Hunter's prescriptions, quote unquote. So unfortunately, there'll be no extra savings for Hunter to use to bribe that Russian prostitute to retrieve his third stolen laptop. Becoming the first state in the United States to mandate the jab, California Governor Gavin Newsom announced his new California COVID rule requiring our Golden State teachers to get the jab or be tested weekly. The good news with Gavin's vax mandate for teachers is that after the jab, there won't be any teachers left to teach critical race theory. I believe Gavin is about to learn his respect for his elder, Larry, that is. Thanks for coming Unapologetic, our warm behalf of free speech. And more importantly, never forget the words of the great George Washington before he too gets canceled. If the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led like sheep to the slaughter. God bless you, and God bless America, and back to our guest. Okay, here we are on AM 790's Judd Dunning's The Unapologetic. Thank you for coming. We're going to be here all summer long, bringing you the top guests who are just saying the truth, like Scott Presler and I, doing a great job. Scott, we want to thank you for being part of our Unapologetic Army and just saying what's really happening out there. And so few people are, for fear of getting canceled or losing their rights or being locked away. This is a different America. So I think it's really important, Los Angeles, SoCal, America, the world, to follow Scott. So Scott, before we go tonight, I just wanted you to tell us, the most important thing that you think is coming up next for us that we must do. You've given us so much gold tonight, and how to follow you so we can keep, seeing what you're doing and following your Patriots ride over there.
I want people to know that you are infinitely powerful, and I mean that. I started off as a dog walker, but I decided to self-determine my destiny. I decided to choose my life and create the life I'm living today. And I'm not saying that, and I hope it doesn't sound egotistical because that's not my intent, but I just want you to know at home, you can create the life and self-determine your own destiny and future, but you have to make that choice. And so if you want to save our country, then you need to act. You need to register to vote. You need to vote in every election. You need to show up at your school board meetings. You need to show up at city council meetings. You need to run for mayor, run for state rep, run for state senate. This year alone, I'm going to 28 states across the country. I'm in New York right now working with Rise PAC. I'm the sole brand ambassador, rise-pac.com. We have data on likely Republican unregistered voters, just like the over 1 million unregistered Republicans in the state of California. And we're working to make sure that we take back the House and Senate in 2022. But again, I want to put this into your heads. You have a decision to make. You can either continue to stay as a quiet observer and watch the greatest country on earth fall, or you can be on the right side of history, take action, save our country, and make sure that this beacon of freedom that the rest of the world is watching never crumbles. Make
Amen.
the decision. I hope you're going to be on the right side.
And give us your Twitter. The Twitter handle is The Persistence. Scott Presler, thanks for coming. We're going to have you back. And, stay you, man. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, here we are, SoCal, America, the world. And now we're really excited to have this next gentleman. We have this young millennial, powerful guy, Scott. He's thinking, he's being rational. And this other gentleman that we're having this evening, Ward Connerly, is here with us tonight. Ward, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. So let me tell you folks, you good folks, a little bit about Ward. Ward is an American political and anti-affirmative action activist. He's a businessman. He's a former University of California regent. He's also the founder and chairman of the American Civil Rights Institute. And he defines himself as a multiracial American who's been involved in his opposition to racial and gender preferences. Never more needed. I bet you never thought we were going to get to where we are now. Ward, thank you so much for coming. And he is a colleague and a fan of Larry Elder. So we're going to talk about a few things quickly tonight. We're going to talk about a little bit about what his mission is with empowering people, but we're going to jump right in. So tell us a little bit, Ward. It's such an important thing. I think we should put it first. Let's talk about Larry Elder and why California needs to make sure they're at the ballot box.
Larry is a great guy. I've known him for over 25 years, and I've always found him to be passionate about his views, sometimes talks a little fast, but that's his brain running ahead of his mouth, and the mouth is trying to catch up. Larry knows what he believes. And it just so happens that his beliefs are what California and the nation need right now. Larry and I share equal amounts of melanin. I don't like racial descriptions, nor does Larry. But when I, serving my 12-year sentence on the Board of Regents in 1993 is when it began, and I was getting clobbered by black people for my views, the one guy who stood by my side ideologically always was Larry Elder. And my position is, and Larry's, is that we are individuals. And we should not be subdivided and sliced and diced into these different groups on the basis of our skin color and our, quote, race, because in the end, that is going to totally fracture and destroy everything that we proclaim to believe in as Americans. So I think that Larry is a man for the season, and he is on a, what at first blush would seem to be almost an impossible mission, and that's to replace Gavin Newsom as the governor of California. He didn't want to do this. Judd, I'll tell you, Larry did not want to do this, and a handful of people begged and pleaded and did everything we could to convince Larry to give up the great gig that he has and to serve the people of this state. And once he agreed to do it, he's been in it all the way. And
amen.
We could not be more,
we're going to take a quick break right there, Ward. We're going to be right back. I have a great opening question for you. Here you are, Los Angeles, SoCal, America, the world, on KABC, AM 790, Unapologetic, the Judd Dunning Hour. We'll be right back with the great Ward Connerly. We're here with Ward Connerly on Unapologetic, the Judd Dunning Hour, KABC, AM 790, Los Angeles, Southern California, America, the world. I love that. I don't know why. It just makes me happy. So, Ward, let's continue. We don't have a lot. This isn't the longest show, so let's continue. I've got about 8-9 minutes here. I want to ask you a question. Those who prefer equality at all costs have to shred the Constitution to enforce such equality. This is liberalism in a nutshell, right? California has been decimated. Matter of fact, we're the leader of decimating individual rights. Why Larry Elder? And how does he actually bring it back? And then one other add-on question, would you be in his administration?
Well, I'll take the last one first. No. I have no interest in serving in government, but I will do anything that I can to help Larry to deliver an effective administration because he's going to have to be reelected in 2022. Now, to go back to the other questions.
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second, Ward. I want people to know something I didn't say enough at the beginning. Ward is the man behind California's Proposition 209, prohibiting race and gender-based preferences in state hiring contractor. This man, the program, Affirmative Action. This is a multiracial, as you call yourself, just for the purposes of your platform, not because who cares? We're one race, the human race. This is the man stumping for Larry right now, telling you about the character of the man that could bring back and save this state, giving us his sign-off on this gentleman. The person delivering this has really done a great act of service in California. Continuing, Ward.
Well, with that, let me just say what the question that you asked about equality. Those on the far left, and even just the left, abuse that term by using equity, and they want equality of outcome. Our country doesn't promise that. And that was not the basis of our country. We are 330 million people, growing faster than the availability of jobs and college admissions will allow. And therefore, the founders, in their wisdom, envisioned a system of competition, give everybody an equal chance to compete, equal opportunity and competition on the front end, and then let the chips fall where they may. Those on the left have abused that, Judd, to argue that equality of outcome, racial disparities, is indicative of systemic racism. It is not. The system calls for equal opportunity and competition, and there are going to be disparities. And we have to be bold enough to recognize that and not throw out the system, when we find that it doesn't deliver equal results, because the results depend on your level of competition, your level of performance, your choices, the choices you make. And if you decide to drop out of school at the 9th grade, or you decide that you're going to start abusing drugs, don't blame the system for that. It's your fault. And so the whole concept of equality is embedded in this debate about the governor of California and our society. Our society is in big trouble. And California is an example of that. And that really, in my view, Judd, is what's behind this recall effort. Most of us realize that our society is in big-time decline. I'm not ragging on the country or my state that I love, but the reality is that we're in big trouble. Crime is out of control. Taxes are high, quite high. People have lost respect for the system itself.
Homelessness, crime, drugs, it's escalating, and personal freedom, right? I mean, what they're going to do with teachers forcing the vaccine rather than leaving them to have that decision. I mean, I think California fills every vacuum of positive and negative rights. It fills every vacuum with the need to control to perfect.
But the biggest problem of all is that the guardrails that our society has constructed over the years that affect crime, that affect taxes, that affect the quality of life, those guardrails have culturally been removed. A former Republican governor recently said, "Screw your freedoms." That, to me, is indicative of the fact that our culture is in great trouble. And it's not a Democrat versus Republican problem. It's a cultural problem, and it affects the whole congregation of people, because we're up against the elites.
We are up against the elites. I agree. Hey, Ward, I need to do a faster hour this time. And I'm sure everybody tell KABC you want a 3-hour show of Unapologetic, the Judd Dunning Hour. So send it in. We're a quick show here. I'd love to have you back, sir. Can you tell our people as we head toward 9:14, I've got 30 more seconds to sign off on this. Tell us where they can follow you and what's the most important thing you want them to do as we head toward 9:14.
You can follow me at all those W's, acri.org. But the most important thing right now is to do whatever you can for Larry Elder, Elder for governor, because this is a national battle now. And they've brought in Elizabeth Warren as their representative. And it's a shootout at the OK Corral.
It certainly is.
Between the progressives and the rest of us.
Vote for Larry. We're on the same page. Ward, I want to have you back. Thank you so much for coming, sir. We're going to do this again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, here you are, and you've heard two great new unapologetic voices. We're here again, and I want to thank Ward for coming. And folks, follow Scott Presler and Ward Connerly. These are, truth-busting patriots, and continue to give them their support. And as we do each week, I want to thank you for coming. Before I say goodbye, a few final closing thoughts. It's good to be conservative. We conservatives, we trust that we are good and perfectly made by a loving God. We do not take our 244 years of blessings for granted. Progressive liberalism cannot stand against this simple truth. A truth that cannot be demeaned or belittled with woke intellectual elitism, as Ward was talking about, or can its inherent humility be labeled racist? It's too true, too pure, as are the simple tenets of conservatism. It's cool to be conservative. It's okay. You won't be canceled for being unapologetic. We must, as a nation, slow down and stand in simple allegiance to protect and build upon what is good, true, free, and enduring. We must always take the high road no matter what. We understand that a smaller government is here to serve us. 100 million people died under the myriads of failed experiments in the name of all the other opposite philosophies. These matters remain worthy of staking our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. Irrespective of daily challenges, we must choose lives of respect and gratitude. Nearly 77% of Americans with religious beliefs tangibly sense some kind of otherworldly support, grace, and God standing behind our fair country, who stands with America with one hand against evil and the other one with goodness for our country. When we rise to our higher natures and we do our part to stand up for good, all miracles are possible, even like places in Afghanistan. I'm Judd Dunning. Thanks for coming to Unapologetic. Stay true, stay safe, stay free, and most of all, stay unapologetic. We'll see you next week.
This show furnished by Judd Dunning.